My father told the world I didn't exist. He typed it out, edited it carefully, and hit post with a smile on his face. Right there on Facebook, for all our relatives and friends to see. My only real child, the one who made me proud. Next to a photo of my sister Jessica, standing in front of his new house, balloons and streamers everywhere. 147 people liked that post. 43 left comments congratulating him. Not a single person asked where I was. I'm Sierra Nelson, 34 years old. And the house my father was so proud of? Half of it was legally mine. He just didn't know I knew that. Or maybe he'd forgotten. The way he'd forgotten so many things about me over the years. But I was about to remind him. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. To understand what happened at that housewarming party, you need to understand my family. Or rather, the two different families that existed under the same roof. I was born from my father's first marriage. My mother, Elena, passed away when I was 8, ovarian cancer that moved too fast for anyone to catch. I remember her last words to me, whispered from a hospital bed that smelled like antiseptic and fading hope. "You're the strong one, Sierra. You'll be okay." Those words became both a blessing and a curse. 2 years after Mom died, my father married Carol. I was 10. I tried to like her, tried to see her as a second chance at having a mother. But Carol had her own plans, and those plans crystallized 4 years later when Jessica was born. From the moment my baby sister arrived, the division became clear. Jessica was the miracle child, the fresh start, the one who represented my father's new life. I was the reminder of the old one, the wife who died, the grief he wanted to bury. Sierra's the big sister. She can handle it, became my father's favorite phrase. When Jessica needed new dance shoes, I wore the same sneakers for 2 years. When Jessica struggled with math, my father hired a tutor. When I brought home straight A's, he'd nod and say, "That's expected." By the time I chose to study finance instead of medicine, which my father had decided was the only respectable profession, he stopped pretending to be interested altogether. Finance? He'd looked at me like I'd announced I was joining the circus. "Waste of potential, Sierra. Your sister's going to be a doctor." In my family, being strong meant being invisible. Here's the thing about being invisible. You learn to build your life without an audience. After graduating from Columbia with honors in finance, I landed a position at Whitmore and Associates, one of the most respected real estate financial advisory firms in Manhattan. My job? Analyzing risk for multi-million-dollar property transactions, ensuring every deal was legally sound and financially viable. Not glamorous, not something you could easily explain at cocktail parties. But I was good at it. Really good. By 32, I was handling portfolios worth more than most people would see in a lifetime. My clients trusted me with their biggest investments. My colleagues respected my judgment. I'd built something real, something solid, but you couldn't put that in an Instagram caption, could you? Jessica, meanwhile, was living the photogenic dream. Every milestone got documented and celebrated. Her white coat ceremony? My father posted 17 photos with the caption, "So proud of my brilliant daughter, future Dr. Nelson." Her residency match at a prestigious hospital? He threw a party and invited 50 people. I remember the day I got promoted to senior financial analyst. I was handling accounts worth more than my father would earn in his entire lifetime. I texted him the news, genuinely hopeful that maybe this achievement would finally register. He responded 3 days later. "That's nice." 3 days, 2 words. Jessica saved her first patient, a routine case from what I heard, and got a Facebook post with 3 paragraphs of praise. I closed a $50 million deal that saved a client from bankruptcy, and I got a 3-word text message. But I kept going. Because that's what strong people do, right? They handle it. 3 years ago, my phone rang at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. The caller ID said, "Dad." I stared at it for 3 full rings, convinced I was hallucinating. My father never called me. Never. If there was family news, I heard it from Uncle Robert or saw it on Facebook like everyone else. So when I answered, my heart was already pounding. Sierra. His voice had that strained quality I recognized from childhood, the sound of a man who needed something. I need your help. The story came out in fragments. He and Carol wanted to upgrade to a nicer house in a better neighborhood. He'd found the perfect place. But there was a problem. His credit score wasn't strong enough to qualify for the mortgage rate he wanted. I just need your name on the deed, he explained. Co-borrower. Your credit score will help us get a better rate. It's just paperwork, really. I should have said no. Every instinct I'd developed in my career screamed that this was a bad idea. But then he said the words that broke through all my defenses. This is for the family, Sierra. For all of us. We could have holidays there. You could have your old room back, sort of. It would be like starting fresh. Starting fresh. A place in his life, a room of my own in his world. I was 31 years old, successful by any reasonable measure, and I was still that little girl desperate for her father's approval. So I signed. I signed my name next to his on that deed, and I told myself I was buying a place in his heart. Turns out, I was just buying him a house. My father promised to refinance within a year. As soon as my credit improves, he said, then we'll take your name off and everything will be clean. Year 1 passed. Nothing. Year 2. I asked twice. Both times he said, I'm working on it. These things take time. By year 3, I'd stopped asking. It had become another item on the long list of promises my father made and never kept. I'd made peace with it, or at least I'd buried the disappointment deep enough that it didn't sting anymore. Then, 6 months before the housewarming party, something unexpected happened. A name from my professional life crossed into my personal one. Marcus Webb was a real estate developer I'd worked with 3 years prior, right around the time my father was buying his house. Solid reputation, sharp businessman, old school about honoring commitments. He'd trusted my analysis on several deals, and we'd developed a professional rapport. So when his name appeared on a document that crossed my desk, a promissory note secured against a property I recognized as my father's address, my blood ran cold. $200,000. Private loan. The house as collateral. My father had borrowed $200,000 from Marcus Webb, using the house I'd co-signed for. Before I could process what this meant, my phone rang. Sierra. Marcus's voice was calm but serious. We need to talk about your father. I just saw the note, I managed. He's missed 3 payments. I've been patient because of our working relationship, but patience has limits. The house my father was about to celebrate? It was drowning in debt I never knew existed. The text from Uncle Robert arrived on a Wednesday afternoon while I was reviewing quarterly reports at my desk. Did you see your dad's post? My stomach dropped before I even opened Facebook. Uncle Robert wasn't the dramatic type. If he was reaching out, it was bad. I found the post immediately. It was pinned to the top of my father's page, surrounded by a cheerful blue border and festooned with party emoji. The photo showed the house, my house, legally speaking, decorated with balloons and a massive banner reading, Welcome. My father stood in the center, arm around Jessica, both of them beaming. Carol hovered in the background, champagne glass in hand. The caption read, Housewarming party this Saturday. All friends and family welcome to celebrate our beautiful new home. Special thanks to my beautiful Jessica, my only real child, the one who made me proud. Can't wait to share this milestone with everyone who matters. 147 likes, 43 comments. Congratulations, Rich! Beautiful home! Jessica is such a blessing. My hands were shaking as I scrolled down to the event details. Guest list, visible. I searched for my name, nothing. I scrolled again, thinking I'd missed it. Nothing. My father had invited our entire extended family, his co-workers, his golf buddies, even the neighbors. He'd posted publicly about his only real child, and he hadn't invited me. It wasn't the party. I didn't care about the party. It was the deliberateness of it, the public declaration. He hadn't just forgotten me. He'd announced my non-existence to everyone we knew. He'd erased me, and he'd wanted the whole world to see. The call came that same evening as I sat on my couch staring at my laptop screen, reading my father's post for the 20th time. Sierra, Marcus Webb's voice cut through my spiral. I saw the Facebook post. I hadn't realized Marcus was connected to my father on social media. Then again, they'd done business together. Of course they were. I need to know where you stand, Marcus continued. Your father has been avoiding my calls for 2 months. The missed payments are adding up. I've got options, and none of them are pleasant for anyone. Options, I repeated numbly. The promissory note gives me the right to initiate foreclosure proceedings if he defaults. I don't want to do that, Sierra, but I'm a businessman, not a charity. I closed my laptop. Mr. Webb, I didn't know about the loan until last week. I don't know what he used the money for. And as of today, I apparently don't exist in his family. Silence on the other end. Then, I gave your father that loan because you vouched for him, and I trusted your judgment. The guilt hit me like a physical blow. I didn't know he'd. I'm not blaming you, but your name is on that deed, which makes you legally connected to this mess whether you want to be or not. He paused. Maybe it's time you and I talked about what happens next, before Saturday. Before the party, before my father celebrated a house built on debt and lies. I'm listening, I said. For the first time in 3 years, someone was treating me like I had a say in what happened to that property. It was time I started acting like it. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad, mapping out everything I knew. The deed with both our names, the promissory note Marcus held, the missed payments, the public post declaring me non-existent. 2 paths stretched before me. I could stay silent. Ignore the post, ignore the party, ignore the debt. Let Marcus handle it however he wanted. Disappear from my father's life completely, the way he clearly wanted me to. Or I could stand up, not for revenge. I wasn't interested in revenge, but for myself, for my legal rights, for the simple acknowledgement that I existed and that my name on that deed meant something. At 7 a.m., I called Linda Chen, a real estate attorney I'd worked with on several deals. I explained the situation in clinical terms: co-ownership, promissory note, missed payments, family conflict. Linda's response was immediate. Your name is on that deed. You're a legal co-owner. You have every right to be at that property, invited or not. And any decision affecting that property, including refinancing or sale, requires your consent. Even if he doesn't want me there? Sierra, you could legally show up with a locksmith and let yourself in. He doesn't get to exclude you from property you co-own. I called Marcus next. What if I come to the party, with documentation, with you? A pause. That's a bold move. It's my house too, according to the law. Then I'll see you Saturday. I could hear the respect in his voice. It's about time someone held Richard Nelson accountable. I wasn't going to crash my father's party. I was going to walk into my own house. So here I was, the invisible daughter, finally ready to be seen. I'd spent my whole life trying to earn my father's love, and he'd just told the world I didn't exist. But he'd forgotten one crucial detail. My name was still on that deed. Before I tell you what happened at that party, I have to ask, have you ever been excluded from a family event? Someone who made you feel like you didn't matter? Tell me in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time, because things are about to get very real. Saturday morning arrived gray and overcast, fitting weather for what I was about to do. I met Marcus Webb and Linda Chen at a coffee shop 3 blocks from my father's house. Linda spread the documents across the table like a general reviewing battle plans. Here's the deed, she pointed to my name, printed clearly in black ink. Sierra Marie Nelson, co-owner with full legal rights. And here, she slid another paper forward, is the promissory note. $200,000 secured by the property, with Richard Nelson as the sole borrower. Marcus leaned back in his chair. I'm not here to make a scene. I just want what I'm owed, or a clear path to getting it. And I'm not here to destroy my father, I added. I just want to be acknowledged, and to make sure this debt situation doesn't blow up in everyone's faces, including mine. Linda nodded. We go in calm, we present facts, we discuss next steps. If Richard wants to handle this like an adult, great. If not, she shrugged, then we'll have witnesses to his refusal. I glanced down at what I was wearing, a navy blue blazer over a cream blouse, the same blazer I'd worn the day I got promoted to senior analyst. I hadn't chosen it consciously, but now I understood why I'd reached for it. This wasn't about dressing up for my father. This was about reminding myself who I was, a professional who knew her worth, a woman who'd built something real while being treated as nothing. Today, I would stop being invisible. One way or another, my father was going to see me. The street was packed with cars, BMWs, Lexuses, a few Mercedes. My father's friends had done well for themselves, or at least wanted everyone to think so. I had to park 3 houses down. Music drifted from the backyard, something jazzy and upbeat, the kind of playlist you'd find at a corporate mixer. Laughter punctuated the air, glasses clinking, voices rising in celebration. The house looked exactly like the photos on Facebook. Cream-colored siding, black shutters, a manicured lawn that screamed successful. A massive banner stretched across the front porch. Welcome to the Nelson home. I stood at the end of the driveway, my heart hammering against my ribs. This was my house. My name was on the deed. I had every legal right to be here. So why did I feel like an intruder? A black sedan pulled up behind me. Marcus emerged first, straightening his jacket. Linda followed, briefcase in hand. We looked like lawyers arriving for a deposition, which wasn't far from the truth. Ready? Marcus asked. No, I admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. We walked up the driveway together. The front door was unlocked. Of course it was. Everyone was welcome. Everyone except me. I could hear my father's voice booming from somewhere inside, telling a story that had the crowd laughing, happy, proud, celebrating his beautiful home, his successful life, his one real child. My hand closed around the doorknob. The metal was warm from the afternoon sun. Solid. Real. Just like the documents in Linda's briefcase. I pushed the door open. It was time for Richard Nelson to remember the daughter he'd tried so hard to forget. The foyer opened into a spacious living room filled with people I half recognized from childhood. Aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors. They were holding wine glasses and small plates, chatting in clusters, admiring the crown molding and the new hardwood floors. A few heads turned when I walked in, polite glances that shifted to confusion, then recognition. Sierra? Aunt Patty's voice cut through the ambient noise like a knife. Oh my God, Sierra! The room went quiet, not all at once, but in a ripple, conversation dying table by table as people turned to stare. I spotted my father in the far corner, champagne flute in hand, mid-sentence. Jessica stood beside him in a pale pink dress, her smile frozen as she registered who had just walked through the door. Carol saw me next. Her expression shifted from confusion to cold recognition in the span of a heartbeat. What are you doing here? Jessica's voice wasn't hostile, just genuinely confused, like she couldn't process my presence at a family event. Carol stepped forward, positioning herself between me and the rest of the room. You weren't invited. Her voice was low, meant only for me, but the room was so silent that everyone heard anyway. This is a family event, she continued louder now. You're not part of this family anymore. I held her gaze without flinching. I wasn't aware being removed from the guest list removed me from the deed. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, The deed? And then, from across the room, Uncle Robert rose from his seat and started walking toward me. The only person in this house who'd thought to warn me. The only one who still treated me like family. My father moved through the crowd like a man trying to contain a fire before it spread. His smile was still in place, but I knew him well enough to see the panic behind his eyes. Sierra. His voice was carefully controlled, the voice he used when clients were watching. This isn't the time or place. Let's talk outside. I didn't move. Actually, Dad, this is exactly the time and place. You made it public. I'm just continuing the conversation. His jaw tightened. You're embarrassing yourself. I'm not the one who posted that my daughter doesn't exist. The murmurs grew louder. Somewhere to my left, I heard the distinctive sound of a phone camera clicking. Recording. Jessica stepped forward, her hands raised in a placating gesture. Sierra, maybe we can talk later? Dad didn't mean… He typed it, I cut her off. He edited it. He added emoji and a guest list and made sure everyone we've ever known could see it. He meant every word. Jessica's mouth opened, then closed. She had no rebuttal because there wasn't one. My father's mask was starting to crack. This is my home, my party. You need to leave. Your home? I let the question hang in the air. Are you sure about that, Dad? Before he could respond, the doorbell rang. Carol, grateful for the distraction, hurried to answer it. I already knew who was on the other side. Marcus Webb stepped into the foyer, Linda Chen behind him with her briefcase. My father's face went from red to white in the span of 2 seconds. Marcus? His voice cracked. What are you… Why are you… The fire he'd been trying to contain had just been doused with gasoline. Marcus Webb didn't look like a man there to cause trouble. He looked like a man there to collect a debt, calm, professional, and entirely unsympathetic to the social context. Richard, his voice carried across the silent room. We need to talk about the $200,000 and the 3 missed payments. The collective intake of breath was audible. Guests exchanged glances, confusion written on their faces. $200,000? This was supposed to be a celebration. Jessica stepped away from our father, her expression shifting from confusion to alarm. Dad? What $200,000? Carol's voice was barely a whisper. Richard, what is going on? My father was sweating now despite the air conditioning. This is a private business matter. Marcus, we can discuss this Monday. We've had 6 Mondays, Richard. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The next conversation happens with lawyers, which is why I brought one. Linda Chen stepped forward, extending her hand to no one in particular. Linda Chen, real estate attorney. I represent Ms. Sierra Nelson's interests regarding the property at this address. Her interests? Carol's voice pitched higher. What interests? Richard, what is she talking about? The room had transformed. What had been a celebration was now a tribunal with my father at the center. His friends, his relatives, his golf buddies, all watching him squirm. Perhaps we should discuss the deed, Linda said, her tone almost pleasant. And who exactly owns this house? Uncle Robert had reached my side. He put a hand on my shoulder, not restraining, just supporting. For the first time in my life, I wasn't standing alone against my father, and he knew it. My father tried to salvage the situation the way he always did, by performing for an audience. Everyone, please. He spread his hands, attempting a reassuring smile. This is just a small business misunderstanding. Nothing to worry about. Marcus and I will sort it out privately. Privately? Marcus raised an eyebrow. You've been hiding from my calls for 2 months. I've driven past this house 3 times trying to catch you home. Private stopped working a long time ago. Tom Wheeler, my father's oldest friend, set down his wine glass. Rich, you borrowed $200,000? What for? My father's smile faltered. That's not… It's complicated, Tom. Actually, it's fairly simple, Linda interjected. Mr. Nelson took out a private loan using this property as collateral. He's made sporadic payments but is currently in default. Under the terms of the promissory note, Mr. Webb has grounds to initiate foreclosure proceedings. Foreclosure? Carol's face went gray. Richard, You said the house was paid off. You said we owned it free and clear. We do own it, my father snapped. The bank loan is current. But my loan isn't, Marcus finished. And my loan is secured by the same property. A woman I recognized as Carol's sister leaned over to whisper something. The whisper spread, table to table, group to group. Richard Nelson, Mr. Success, Mr. My daughter the doctor, was drowning in debt. Jessica stood frozen, watching her pedestal crumble. Dad, did you lie to us? My father didn't answer, couldn't answer, because the truth was written on his face. The beautiful home, the housewarming party, the Facebook post. All of it was built on borrowed money and borrowed time. And time had just run out. Linda Chen opened her briefcase with the practiced calm of someone who'd done this 100 times. She withdrew a document and held it up so the room could see. This is the recorded deed for this property. Her voice was clear, educational, the voice of a professor explaining a basic concept to confused students. Note the names listed as owners: Richard Allen Nelson and Sierra Marie Nelson, joint tenants with rights of survivorship. Jessica's head swiveled toward me. Wait, Sierra owns this house? Sierra is a legal co-owner, Linda corrected. She has every right to be here. In fact, any decision affecting this property, refinancing, sale, or otherwise, legally requires her consent. That's just a formality. My father's composure finally cracked. I was going to remove her name. It was only supposed to be temporary. 3 years ago you told me 1 year. I kept my voice steady, though my heart was racing. Then 2 years. Then you stopped mentioning it at all. I'm still on the deed, Dad, and you've been making decisions about this property, including taking out massive loans, without consulting me. The room was utterly silent now. Even the jazz music had stopped, someone having the presence of mind to turn it off. Aunt Patty spoke up, her voice incredulous. Richard, you put Sierra's name on the deed and then told Facebook she isn't your real child? What is wrong with you? I watched my father shrink under the collective scrutiny. This was a man who lived for approval, for admiration, for the image he projected, and that image was disintegrating in real time. I didn't come here to take anything, I said quietly. I came because you can't give away something that isn't fully yours. Jessica stood in the middle of the room like a woman watching her house burn down, which, in a way, she was. Dad? Her voice was small, confused. I'd never heard her sound like that before. Why is Sierra's name on the deed? Why didn't you ever tell me? My father ran a hand through his thinning hair. Sweetheart, it's complicated. I needed her credit score to qualify for the mortgage. It was just a business arrangement. A business arrangement. Jessica repeated the words like they tasted bitter. You used her credit. You used her name. And then you posted that she's not your real child? I didn't mean it like that. You tagged me in it, Dad. Jessica's voice cracked. You made it about me, my only real child. I thought you were just being dramatic. I didn't know you were serious. I didn't know Sierra was... She stopped, pressing her fingers to her temples. Carol stepped forward, trying to play damage control. Jessica, honey, don't! Mom, stop! The word cut through the air like a blade. I'd never heard Jessica speak to Carol that way. Just stop. This is... She looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw something like shame in her eyes. Sierra, did you know about all of this? I knew my name was on the deed. I just found out about the loan to Mr. Webb last week. And Dad's been paying you back? This was directed at Marcus. Sporadically, Marcus replied, until 2 months ago, when he stopped entirely. Jessica turned back to our father. Her pedestal hadn't just crumbled. She'd finally stepped off it to see what had been holding it up. Nothing. It had been nothing all along. Something broke behind my father's eyes. You want to ruin my day? He wheeled on me, all pretense of civility gone. Fine. You've always been jealous of Jessica, always resented that she's the successful one, the one who made something of herself. I helped you buy this house, Dad. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I've worked at a top financial firm for a decade. I've never asked you for anything, until you told the world I don't exist. You're nothing! His voice echoed off the vaulted ceilings. You sit at some desk pushing papers while your sister saves lives. She's a doctor, Sierra. What are you? What have you ever done that matters? The room held its breath. I could have listed my achievements, the seven-figure deals I'd managed, the clients whose retirements I'd secured, the career I'd built from nothing while he spent every ounce of his attention on my sister. But I didn't, because it wouldn't have mattered. Not to him. Uncle Robert stood up. Rich, that's enough. His voice was hard in a way I'd never heard before. Sierra helped you when no one else could. When your credit was shot and no bank would touch you, she put her name on the line. And this is how you repay her? Several guests were openly recording now. Others had started quietly gathering their things, eager to escape the implosion. My father looked around the room, searching for an ally, a sympathetic face. He found none. The man who lived for public approval had just destroyed himself in front of everyone who mattered to him, and I hadn't had to say a single word beyond the truth. Marcus Webb stepped forward, and the room fell silent once more. Whatever sympathy might have existed for my father evaporated under the weight of cold financial reality. Richard, let me be perfectly clear. Marcus's voice was calm, businesslike, the voice of a man who'd given too many chances already. You owe me $200,000 plus interest. That's $218,000 at current count. You've missed payments. The promissory note is airtight. Carol's voice was barely audible. 218,000? And the note gives me the right to initiate foreclosure proceedings if you remain in default. Marcus continued as if she hadn't spoken. I don't want to do that. Courts are expensive. Lawyers are expensive. I'd rather work this out. My father seemed to shrink with every word. Marcus, I can get you the money. I just need more time. You've had time. 2 years of time. What you haven't had is accountability. Marcus glanced at me. But that arrangement needs to involve all parties on the deed, which includes your daughter. Linda Chen stepped forward with another document. This is the promissory note for anyone who'd like to verify. Standard private loan agreement, property as collateral, clear default provisions. Jessica took the document with trembling hands, scanning it as if she could make the numbers disappear through sheer disbelief. Dad, you borrowed $200,000 and didn't tell anyone? I was going to pay it back. With what? Carol's voice had shifted from shock to something colder. We barely covered the country club membership last month. You said business was good. You said we were fine. The foundation of lies was crumbling, and everyone could see what was underneath. Nothing but debt and delusion. I stepped forward, and the room's attention shifted to me. The invisible daughter, suddenly at the center of everything. Dad, here's the situation. I kept my voice calm, professional. The voice I used in boardrooms, not at family gatherings. My name is on this deed. Mr. Webb has a valid claim against the property. These are facts. What happens next is up to you. My father stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. Option 1. We sit down with lawyers, yours and ours, within the next 2 weeks. We work out a payment plan for Mr. Webb. You refinance the property to remove my name from the deed, which you should have done 3 years ago. Everyone walks away with what they're owed. And option 2? His voice was hoarse. Option 2. You keep ignoring everyone. Mr. Webb initiates foreclosure proceedings. This goes to court. You'll spend more on legal fees than you owe, and you might still lose the house. You'll definitely lose whatever reputation you have left. I gestured at the room full of witnesses, many of whom were still recording. And based on what people have seen today, I'd say that reputation is already on thin ice. You're blackmailing me. The accusation sounded weak even to him. I'm giving you options. That's more than you ever gave me. Linda Chen nodded approvingly. Marcus Webb's expression hadn't changed. He'd seen this kind of conversation before, probably dozens of times. But my father? My father looked like a man who'd just realized the game had changed. The daughter he'd dismissed, ignored, and publicly erased was holding his future in her hands, and she wasn't going away. The choice is yours, Dad. Make a good one for once. The room began to move again, not with celebration, but with exodus. Tom Wheeler approached my father with an expression of profound discomfort. Rich man, you should probably listen to her. This is getting out of hand. He patted my father's shoulder awkwardly and then headed for the door, taking his wife with him. Aunt Patty didn't bother lowering her voice. I can't believe you posted that about your own daughter. She's standing right here, being more mature than you've been in your entire life. She turned to me on her way out. You handled that with class, honey. Your mother would be proud. I felt something crack in my chest. No one had mentioned my mother in years, not in this family. More guests filtered out, murmuring apologies and excuses. A few stopped to shake my hand or give me sympathetic looks. The housewarming party had become a funeral for my father's carefully constructed image. Carol sank into a chair, her face in her hands. This was supposed to be a celebration. How did this happen? It happened, Marcus said without sympathy, because your husband thought he could borrow money and pretend it didn't exist. That works until it doesn't. A second cousin I barely recognized paused beside me. Hey, Sierra. I always thought it was weird you weren't at family stuff. I should have asked. I'm sorry. I nodded, not trusting my voice. By the time the last guest left, only family remained. My father stood in his beautiful living room, surrounded by empty wine glasses and abandoned appetizers, the banner still hanging cheerfully over the door. Welcome to the Nelson home. For the first time, I actually felt like I belonged here, even if no one had wanted me to. I need to pause here for just a second, because what happened next surprised even me. My father's perfect party was ruined. His lies were exposed. His friends had witnessed everything. You'd think that would be the end of the story, right? But families are complicated, and sometimes the people you least expect are the ones who surprise you. If you're still with me, hit that like button and stay tuned, because the ending is worth it. While my father retreated to the kitchen with Marcus and Linda to discuss the logistics of not losing his house, Jessica found me on the back patio. The party decorations looked absurd now, fairy lights twinkling over empty tables, a congratulations banner swaying in the evening breeze. All that effort for an image that had shattered in under an hour. Sierra. Jessica's voice was tentative, stripped of its usual confidence. I didn't know about the deed, about any of this. I know you didn't. I kept my eyes on the sunset. Dad didn't tell you because it didn't fit the story he wanted to tell. She stood beside me, close but not touching. The post he made. I should have said something. I saw it and I just... She stopped, struggling. I didn't think. You didn't think because you never had to. The words came out gentler than I expected. You've always been the one he chose. You never had to wonder where you stood. Silence stretched between us. Somewhere inside, I could hear my father's raised voice, quickly subdued by Marcus's calm responses. I'm sorry, Jessica's voice cracked. I know that probably doesn't mean much, but I'm sorry. For the post, for not noticing, for all of it. I finally looked at her. My baby sister, the golden child, standing on the ruins of her pedestal and trying to find solid ground. It means something, I said. But it's going to take more than one apology to fix 20 years of being invisible. She nodded slowly. I know, but I want to try, if you're open to it. I didn't answer immediately. Trust isn't something you give away twice without being careful. But she'd reached out. That was more than my father had ever done. By the time I went back inside, the negotiations were over. My father sat at his own kitchen table like a man who'd lost a war. Carol stood behind him, her hand on his shoulder, supporting him, as always, even now. Marcus was putting documents back into his briefcase while Linda made notes on a legal pad. Monday, Marcus said, not looking up. My office, 9 a.m. Bring your lawyer, Richard. We'll work out a payment schedule that actually gets followed this time. My father nodded without speaking. Linda handed him her business card. I'll be representing Sierra's interests in any discussions about the property. Going forward, all decisions require her written consent. That's not negotiable. Fine. His voice was hollow. I stepped closer. Dad? He looked up at me, and for a moment, I saw something unexpected in his eyes. Not remorse, exactly. More like the shock of a man who'd finally been caught. Are you really going to do this? He asked. Sue your own father? I'm not suing you. I'm making sure things are done right. I held his gaze. For the first time in 3 years, you're going to keep your promises. Not because you want to, but because you have to. I never meant— I know what you meant, Dad. You meant to use me when it was convenient and forget me when it wasn't. That's always been the arrangement. I took a breath. But I'm done being convenient. My name is on that deed, and it stays there until you do what you should have done 3 years ago, legally, properly, no more promises that disappear. He had no response. For once in his life, Richard Nelson had nothing to say. It was almost worth everything that came before. Uncle Robert was waiting for me outside, leaning against my car in the fading twilight. Hell of a party, he said, a wry smile on his weathered face. I laughed, actually laughed, for the first time in what felt like years. Not exactly what Dad had planned. No. He straightened up, his expression turning serious. But it was long overdue. Your mother would have been proud of you today, Sierra. Damn proud. The mention of her hit differently now, after Aunt Patty's words inside. You think so? I know so. He reached out and squeezed my shoulder. Elena never let anyone walk over her either. She was gentle about it, graceful even, but she had a spine of steel. You're just like her. I felt tears prick at my eyes and blinked them back. I miss her. I know, sweetheart. We all do. He pulled me into a hug, brief, solid, the kind of hug that said more than words could. Whatever happens with your dad, you've got family, real family, not the kind that posts on Facebook and forgets you exist. When he released me, I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. Thanks for texting me about the post. I might never have seen it otherwise. That's what family does. He pulled his car keys from his pocket. You need anything? A place to stay? A lawyer recommendation? Someone to yell at your father? You call me, day or night. I watched him drive away, and something shifted in my chest. For years I'd been trying to earn a place in a family that didn't want me. Tonight, I'd been reminded that I already had family. Real family. I just hadn't been looking in the right places. The text came at 11:47 that night as I was lying in bed staring at the ceiling. Jessica. I deleted my Instagram post about the party. I should never have been part of that. I watched the 3 dots appear, disappear, appear again. Jessica. I know we're not close. We've never been close. But I want to try, if you're open to it. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let her sit with the same silence I'd experienced for 20 years. But that would make me like my father, petty, vindictive, unable to let go of old wounds. Another message appeared. Jessica, I've been thinking about what you said, that I never had to think because I was always the chosen one. You're right. I never questioned it. I just accepted that Dad loved me more, like it was natural. I never stopped to wonder how that felt for you. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. The easy response would be cold, distant. Keep her at arm's length the way she'd kept me. But Jessica hadn't done this to me. Not deliberately. She'd been a child when the favoritism started, and by the time she was old enough to notice, it was just normal. the way things were. She'd been blind, but blindness isn't the same as cruelty. I type slowly. Sierra, we can try, but it starts with you actually seeing me, not just tonight, every day. Can you do that? The response came immediately. Jessica, I'm going to try. I promise. Forgiveness wasn't something I could give in a text message, but I could give her a chance to earn it. That was a start. Monday morning, 9 a.m. Marcus Webb's office on the 42nd floor of a glass tower downtown. My father arrived with a lawyer I didn't recognize, some harried-looking man in a cheap suit who'd clearly been hired at the last minute. Linda sat beside me, calm and composed. Marcus presided from the head of the conference table like a judge awaiting testimony. There was no small talk, no pleasantries, just documents spread across polished mahogany and the quiet hum of fluorescent lights. Here's the revised payment schedule, Marcus said, sliding a paper toward my father. 24 monthly payments. Miss one, and I reserve the right to initiate foreclosure immediately. No grace period, no excuses. My father's lawyer reviewed the terms, whispered something in his ear. My father nodded reluctantly and signed. Now regarding the deed, Linda took over. Mr. Nelson, you will refinance this property within 6 months to remove Ms. Sierra Nelson as co-owner. She will receive confirmation of completion directly from the title company. Until that confirmation is received, no modifications, no additional liens, no decisions of any kind can be made without her written consent. Another signature, then another. My father didn't look at me once through the entire process. His pen moved mechanically, signing away control he should never have had in the first place. When it was over, Marcus collected the papers and stood. Pleasure doing business with you, Richard. Let's hope we don't have to do it again. We filed out of the conference room. My father lingered, his lawyer already heading toward the elevator. He looked at me, really looked, for the first time all morning. Then he turned and walked away without a word. I didn't need his words anymore. He caught up with me in the parking garage. I was almost to my car when I heard footsteps echoing off concrete. Sierra, wait. I turned, keys in hand, guard up. My father stood under the harsh fluorescent lights, looking older than I'd ever seen him. The confident, image-conscious man from the housewarming party was gone. This was someone smaller, diminished. I shouldn't have written that post, he said. No, you shouldn't have. I was just... He searched for words, the way he always did when emotions were involved. I wanted the party to be special for Jessica. She's been working so hard with her residency, and I thought... You thought you'd celebrate her by announcing I don't exist? I kept my voice level. Dad, I helped you buy that house. I put my credit, my name, my financial future on the line for you, and I never asked for anything in return, not even an invitation to a party. I'm not finished. I took a breath. I spent 30 years trying to earn your love, 30 years of being the strong one, the one who didn't need attention, the one who could handle being forgotten. I'm done. His face crumpled slightly. Sierra, I don't need your approval anymore, Dad. The words came out steady, certain. I stopped needing it the moment you told the world I was nothing. You want to be part of my life? Earn it. Not with words. You've given me plenty of those. With actions. Consistently. Over time. He stood there, mouth open. No words coming out. I hope you figure it out, I said. I really do. But I'm not waiting anymore. I got in my car and drove away. I didn't look back. The call came 3 days later from a number I didn't expect. Carol. My stepmother had never called me directly, not once in 24 years. Communication had always flowed through my father, filtered through whatever narrative he wanted to present. Sierra. Her voice was different, stripped of its usual cool confidence. I owe you an apology. I pulled my car into a parking lot, too surprised to keep driving. I'm listening. I knew about the deed. The admission came out in a rush. I knew your father used your credit. I knew he was supposed to remove your name and never did. And I didn't say anything. Why are you telling me now? A long pause. Because I watched what happened at that party. I watched you stand there, calm and dignified, while your father fell apart. And I realized I've been enabling this. All of it. The favoritism, the lies, the way he treats you. I let it happen because it was easier than fighting him. I didn't know how to respond. Carol had never been cruel to me, not actively. She'd just been absent, complicit in my erasure through silence. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she continued. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see you. I see what he did, and I see what I let him do. What are you going to do about it? I asked. Another pause. I don't know yet, but I'm not going to pretend anymore. Not for him, not for the image. Her apology didn't fix anything. 24 years of being overlooked couldn't be undone with one phone call, but it meant she finally saw the truth. That was more than I'd ever expected from her. 2 weeks after the party, Jessica invited me to dinner. It's at the house, she said carefully, like she knew it was a minefield. Dad suggested it. He wants to start fresh, all of us together. I sat with the invitation for a full day before responding. Part of me wanted to go, to walk back into that house as an acknowledged member of the family, to sit at the table where my name had never been welcome. There was a vindictive satisfaction in imagining it, but that wasn't why I'd said no. I wasn't ready. I appreciate the invitation, I told Jessica over the phone. I do, but I'm not ready to sit at that table yet. That house, those people, it's too soon. I understand. She sounded disappointed but not surprised. What if it was just us? Coffee, somewhere neutral? I smiled despite myself. Coffee works. Next Saturday? Next Saturday. We hung up, and I sat in the quiet of my apartment thinking about boundaries. My whole life I'd bent myself around other people's expectations. I'd shown up when I wasn't wanted, because being there felt better than being forgotten. I'd accepted crumbs and called them love, not anymore. Going back to that house on my father's terms, sitting at his table while he played the gracious patriarch, that wasn't healing. That was pretending, and I was done pretending. If there was going to be a relationship with my family, any of them, it would happen at my pace, on my terms, in spaces where I felt safe. Healing didn't mean pretending nothing happened. It meant moving forward at a pace I could handle. And right now, that pace was coffee with my sister. One small step at a time. 6 months later, I got the email I'd been waiting for. Linda Chen, forwarding a confirmation from the title company. Refinancing complete. Sierra Marie Nelson, removed from the deed as of October 15th. I read it 3 times, waiting for some emotion to hit. Relief, maybe? Or loss? Or vindication? What I felt instead was simpler. Freedom. For 3 years, my name had been tied to a house that was never really mine. A house my father used me to buy, and then excluded me from enjoying. A house that represented everything wrong with our relationship. I was good enough to use, but not good enough to include. Now, finally, the paper trail was clean. My credit was my own again. My name was on no documents that connected me to Richard Nelson's financial decisions. The debt to Marcus Webb had been restructured through a new bank loan, higher interest rate, longer term, but manageable if my father actually made the payments. That was his problem now, not mine. I closed the laptop and looked around my apartment. Small, yes. A 1-bedroom in a modest building, nothing like the sprawling house my father had been so proud of. But it was mine. Completely, totally, legally mine. No co-signers, no complications, no one else's name on the deed. I'd bought it 6 months ago, right after the housewarming party. The same week, I decided to stop waiting for my father to love me and start building a life that didn't depend on his approval. The deed had one name on it: mine. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Not invisible, not forgotten, not erased, just home. Jessica and I met for coffee every other Saturday. It became a ritual. Not every meeting was smooth. Sometimes we'd sit in awkward silence, two strangers who shared DNA trying to figure out if they shared anything else. Sometimes old wounds would surface, a comment that stung, a memory that cut, and we'd have to take a step back. But we kept showing up. I noticed something at Thanksgiving, Jessica said during one of our coffee dates, 3 months into our new routine. Dad mentioned some investment thing he was excited about, and I actually asked about your work first, before responding to him. How'd that feel? Weird, she laughed. But good weird, like I was finally seeing the room instead of just the spotlight. I stirred my latte. That's progress. Is it enough? She looked genuinely uncertain. I spent 30 years not noticing you, Sierra. Not really. I don't know if coffee every 2 weeks makes up for that. It doesn't. I met her eyes. But it's a start. And starts matter. She nodded slowly. I've been thinking about something you said at the party that I never had to think because I was always chosen. I've been watching Dad with new eyes since then. The way he talks about me versus the way he doesn't talk about you. It's not subtle. No, it never was. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. You're seeing it now. We weren't best friends. Maybe we never would be. 30 years of imbalance couldn't be corrected over lattes and small talk. But we were becoming something. Sisters, maybe. For the first time. She was learning to see me. And I was learning to let myself be seen. That was enough. For now. The text from my father arrived 8 months after the housewarming party. I'd almost stopped expecting it. Dad. Sierra, can we talk? I've been thinking about things. I let it sit for 3 days, partly because I was busy, partly because I wanted him to feel what waiting felt like. When I finally called back, he answered on the first ring. Sierra. He sounded nervous, uncertain, emotions I'd never associated with Richard Nelson. Thanks for calling. What did you want to talk about? A long pause. I want to make things right. Maybe we could have dinner. Just the two of us. Start over. Start over. Like 34 years could be erased with a meal. Dad, I don't need to start over. I kept my voice calm, though my heart was racing. I've already started. My own life, my own career, my own home. Without you. I know. I know I haven't been. He struggled. I haven't been fair to you. No, you haven't. I want to fix that. With dinner? With whatever it takes. I don't know how to do this, Sierra. I never learned how to be a father to you. Your mother was the one who. He stopped. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying I want to try. I thought about all the years I'd spent wanting to hear those words, all the times I'd imagined this conversation, rehearsed my responses, dreamed of reconciliation. Now that it was here, I felt nothing. Not anger, not hope, just clarity. Actions, Dad, not words. I took a breath. You want to try? Then try. But I'm not meeting you halfway anymore. You have to walk the whole distance. And I'll decide if it's enough. I understand. I hope you do. 9 months after the housewarming party, I got promoted again. Director of Financial Analysis at Whitmore and Associates. A corner office. A team of 8 reporting to me. The kind of success I'd been building toward my entire career. I didn't text my father. I didn't post it on social media. I told the people who mattered. Uncle Robert, who took me out for steak and too much wine. Linda Chen, who sent flowers. Marcus Webb, who emailed congratulations and a referral. And Jessica, who showed up at my apartment that Saturday with a bottle of champagne and a card that said simply, I'm proud of you. That afternoon, I stood on my balcony, small, barely big enough for two chairs, but mine, and looked out at the city. Uncle Robert had come over earlier, bringing a plant he swore was impossible to kill. Jessica's champagne sat half empty on the counter. My apartment wasn't big, wasn't fancy, wasn't the kind of place my father would post on Facebook, but every square foot of it was mine, earned, chosen, unencumbered by anyone else's expectations or debts. The deed had one name on it, Sierra Marie Nelson. No co-signers, no promises, no one who could erase me from the paperwork of my own life. I thought about my mother and the words she'd spoken from that hospital bed all those years ago. "You're the strong one, Sierra. You'll be okay." She'd been right, but not in the way she'd meant. I wasn't strong because I could endure being forgotten. I was strong because I'd finally learned to stop accepting it. I was strong because I'd built a life worth remembering, and I'd done it myself. I used to think family meant being loved unconditionally. I'd grown up believing that parents were supposed to cherish all their children equally, that siblings were supposed to have each other's backs, that belonging was something you were born into rather than something you had to fight for. I learned the hard way that none of that is guaranteed. Some people will love you only when you're useful to them. They'll borrow your credit score, your connections, your silent support. And then they'll pretend you don't exist when you're no longer convenient. They'll throw parties in houses you helped them buy and post on social media that you're not their real child. And the worst part? They won't even see it as wrong. They'll genuinely believe they've done nothing to apologize for. For years, I asked myself the wrong question. Why doesn't he love me? I'd wonder, lying awake at night. What did I do wrong? What could I do differently? I finally learned to ask a better question. Why do I keep expecting him to change? The hardest thing I ever did wasn't confronting my father at that housewarming party. It wasn't walking into his house with lawyers and documents and demanding to be acknowledged. The hardest thing was accepting that I might never get the love I'd spent my whole life wanting, that the father I needed didn't exist, and the father I had wasn't capable of becoming him. But here's what I learned. You don't need everyone to love you. You just need to love yourself enough to walk away from people who don't. You need to stop asking for permission to exist in your own story. You need to write yourself into it, even when others try to edit you out. If you're watching this, maybe you have your own story. Maybe there's someone in your life who makes you feel invisible, a parent who favors your sibling, a partner who dismisses your achievements, a boss who takes credit for your work, someone who benefits from your presence but never acknowledges your value. Maybe you've been waiting for an apology that's never coming, rehearsing conversations in your head, imagining the moment when they finally see you, finally understand what they've done. Maybe you've spent years trying to earn love from someone who doesn't know how to give it. I want you to know, you're not alone, and you don't have to keep waiting. Your name is on your own deed, the deed to your life. You get to decide who has access. You get to decide whose opinion matters. You get to decide when to open the door and when to lock it. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't belong in your own story. My father posted that I didn't exist. He threw a party and didn't invite me. He told the world I was nothing. But he forgot one thing. I'd helped him build the very thing he was so proud of. And when I finally stood up for myself, I did it with documents, with lawyers, with facts. Not with screaming, not with revenge, with the truth. You can do the same. Whatever your battle is, whatever your deed looks like, you have the right to claim your place in it. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you find the courage to write your own. Your life is yours. Make sure your name is on it. And that's Sierra's story. Before you go, I have a question. If you could say one thing to someone who made you feel invisible, what would it be? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story meant something to you, hit subscribe and tap that notification bell. I share stories like this every week. Next time, a mother-in-law who threw her daughter-in-law's belongings on the lawn. She didn't realize who was watching. See you soon.